to tyranny is to treat kids as somewhere between pets and robots. If a child never thinks of himself as a full person, he will never aspire to be more than a quote-unquote citizen. That is, to be owned and sold and ordered around. Divine greetings, African royals, wherever you are. Princes, princesses, kings and queens. Welcome again to another episode of W4W Book Reading series. Reading for enlightenment and awareness. We have been reading from the Handbook of Human Ownership, a manual for new tax farmers. And in today's episode, we will be covering two chapters. Chapter 16 and Chapter 17. However, let's pause a bit and give a warm welcome to our new subscribers. We truly thank you for joining us, and if this is your first time, please make sure to check out the previous episodes and the chapters we have already covered after you finish watching or listening to this episode. So you can be fully caught up with the rest of us. Remember to subscribe and share the session if you haven't already done so others can partake of these truth nuggets. And also remember to click the notification bell so you are notified when we upload a new episode. In episode 11, we cover chapter 15 where we get to see and understand how the parasitic classes, otherwise called tax farmers, shamelessly exploit the productive classes for their own selfish gain. In today's episode, we will get to see how children are trained and indoctrinated to become a member of the slave class on the human farm in chapter 16, and how the role of science is manipulated and used as a management tool by the tax farmers in chapter 17. Stay tuned and stick around. Real truth nuggets coming up. I do hope that you are well geared up to learn something new today. But before we head down into today's reading, a quick disclaimer. We might be reading from this book, but it don't mean that we endorse the book or the author. We are just reading for knowledge and enlightenment. Alright? And remember, this is a spiritual mission with our ancestors as our guiding light. And remember, you can always download a free copy of this book at freedomainradio.com so you can read and follow along with us. With that said, grab your notebooks, grab your highlighters and your pens, and let's go open up our eyes some more in this episode. Chapter 16. Childhood, personhood. The key to tyranny is to treat kids as somewhere between pets and robots. If a child never thinks of himself as a full person, he will never aspire to be more than a quote-unquote citizen. That is, to be owned and sold and ordered around. People take pride in being citizens, which is completely mad, since citizenship means that they have been granted the right to work, travel and live, which are all supposed to be inalienable anyway. For example, imagine As Murray Rothbard once wrote, that the government should take over magazines and books and limit readership by local geography and hire and fire and control all writers, editors and reporters and force people to pay for them even if they never read them. What an unholy outcry would arise! Cries of censorship and tyranny would echo in tinny indignation from bosom to heaving bosom. But inflict far worse controls on children. Force them into local schools. Control all the teachers and curriculum, even for private schools. And not only are the voices of protest silent, but are only raised against anyone who dares to suggest that the free minds of helpless children are far more important than the recreational reading tastes of adults. You'll get a kick out of this one too, okay? Use government power to force everyone to pay for the indoctrination of children. Force the kids to sit in dusty, still rows, barely allowed to blink, and then drug the living crap out of them if they get bored and restless, and keep them trapped there year after year, and then tell them that their masters won the war that set them free against National Socialism and Communism. Can you imagine telling children in an entirely communist environment, public schools, that communism is the enemy? Of course, they'll just write it down and regurgitate it whenever you want, because they're terrified of being drugged. And then you have to tell them, of course, that communist dictatorships use the lie called quote-unquote mental illness to drug anyone who didn't fit in and obey the rulers. Freedom is for the adults. Communism is for the children. Open to catch the nuggets. Next chapter coming up. Science as it relates to human ownership and tax farming. Give thanks for those who are still around. See you in the next chapter. Chapter 17. Science. We have a complicated relationship with science. We need it for weapons and tax livestock management. Imagine how hard it would be to collect taxes without computers. So we need science to flourish, but we also need to control it. The way we do this is to continually program the population to view science as a productive but dangerous force that will destroy the world if not tightly controlled. This is utterly absurd, of course, since it was our control of science through the Manhattan Project that created weapons that actually could destroy the world. But then we just tell the sheep that, worse things would have happened if we didn't make nukes, and they all bow and agree and eat the leftover grass we shoveled into their troughs. So we do this sort of quote-unquote sorcerer's apprentice thing, where science is great to begin with, but then grows and gets out of control and needs to be shut down in an extremity of CGI adventure. Naturally, we are really talking about ourselves, the government itself, but no one wants to think about that. So they imagine that it's all about robots and computers and carbon footprints and machines that make hot dogs in the sky. People will always choose 1,000 fairy tales over one basic fact. Except us, perhaps. Our understanding of and immunity to sentimentality is our greatest power. We are the lions who hunt with sentimental pictures of little kittens. Stay tuned for the final 2 chapters coming up in the final episode of this series of human ownership and tax farming. Hope you caught a lot of truth nuggets from these topics that we have covered so far. See you in the next episode. So, we've reached the end of today's episode, and thanks again for listening, and I do hope that you learned something new today. If you find this series educational and informative, please subscribe and join us as we continue, reading towards the global awakening and enlightenment of our people. A mammoth task, but it can be done. And again, please be reminded that not because we read a book here means that we are in agreement with the philosophies of the author or the context of the book. We are simply reading to become more knowledgeable about things we didn't know about but should. If it exists, then why shouldn't we know that it do? Just simply that. Give thanks again, and thanks for stopping by. See you in the next episode. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and drop your analysis in the comment section, whether you read the book already or you're just reading the book with us. Your comments are welcome. Okay? Give thanks.